Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. With over 1,000 NCAA commitments, the EHL is the proven path to college. Turn it up and learn more about the college placement leader at the Division II and III levels.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, "We take care of our own," as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 74 of the E-Show. And on this week's episode, we chat with Connor Bizal and Adam Zukowski, a pair of forwards from this past year's EHL Champions, the Boston Junior Rangers. Bizal and Zukowski are also the co-founders of the Fellowship of Hockey Advancement, a free resource for high school and junior hockey players who are looking to succeed and grow at their level. The mentors at FHA provide advice and support to players who need help overcoming obstacles and getting to where they want to be. Bizal and Zukowski take the time to share their respective stories, including some of the hurdles that they had to overcome. I'm joined now by Connor Bizal and Adam Zukowski, the co-founders of the Fellowship of Hockey Advancement. How's it going, guys?
Good, how are you?
Well, nice to be here.
Thanks for coming on. I know we talked about this for a little bit. I wanted to give a little bit of time to breathe after your championship season. We're going to touch on that, of course, but we'll let either one of you start with the very general, basic question. What is the Fellowship of Hockey Advancement?
I can take this one, Busy. We're a free mentorship program for players aged 14 through 21, basically helping players and their guidance through junior hockey, high school hockey, making the decision to jump to juniors, and then helping them through the process, whether that transition's really difficult going from team to team, getting cut, getting traded, just kind of helping players sort the whole deal out, being sort of a big brother in the whole process.
All right, whose idea was it?
Oh gosh, honestly, it was a mixture of both.
Okay.
I think it was probably November when I was working at the penalty box shop for Drew, which obviously we all know Drew, and Zook came in to talk to Drew about volunteering opportunities, and I had been sitting on an idea sort of similar to what we're doing. I didn't know exactly how I wanted to do it or what platform I wanted to use, and I heard him talking to Drew about volunteering, so I was like, you know what, like I think we both have kind of the same idea here, like why don't we start thinking of something to do together? And from there, just kind of we started brainstorming, and here we are.
And as we get into it here, I want to have you each tell me your story, because first and foremost, I see the 10 plus jerseys you have behind you, Connor, and the Frozen Finals hat. So can you kind of walk us through your timeline of how you got here today and where you're at right now?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with myself. I'm from Minnesota, grew up playing youth in high school in Minnesota, had a pretty good high school career, had the opportunity to sign with a North American team out of high school, and that summer things went south with them, things fell through. That was kind of the start of like the whole mental decline for myself. I ended up playing for the Jersey Hitmen, played for 3 teams within that organization, which is probably pretty uncommon, but went out there for a year. I hadn't really known what the East Coast looked like hockey wise at that point. I just kind of needed a team to go to and just found it and went there. And so then from there, that summer I went to like 5 NOL camps, and which I highly recommend not doing that. Like I burned out. I basically hated hockey by the end of it. And the more I got cut from teams, like the worse I felt about myself. I had just gone through like a tough like breakup off the ice, which it's something that guys I feel like try not to get sad about or worry about, but like that's just how life is. Like you have to embrace that. So I had a really rough summer. That was my Well, I guess I got depressed my sophomore year of high school. It wasn't as bad as this time though. The second time around, it was like 10 times worse. I kind of just sat on it and was like, I'm just gonna let hockey take control of my life and put all my time towards hockey, which, I mean, physically it helped, but mentally it didn't. I was ignoring the problems I was going through, and so I had been working with a sports psychologist for like a half a year to that point. For some reason, I didn't utilize them. I thought, I was tougher than what I was going through, so I tried to get through it on my own, which was a mistake. And needless to say, like, the summer was miserable for me. Like, I wouldn't have wished that upon my worst enemy, like what I went through. And I mean, now I'm comfortable talking about it, obviously, because that's just the stuff that you have. Like, that's why we're doing this, is like, everybody goes through this stuff, and sometimes it's hard to like recognize that you're actually going through it, or like recognize that you need to talk to somebody about it. But so, I mean, other than that, so that summer happened. I ended up out at BJR. Honestly, like, was kind of a last minute thing. Rich had never seen me play before, and it was just going off of what he'd heard from somebody else. So I went there. I honestly had never really gotten better mentally when I first got there. I'd say honestly for the first half of the season, I was still in a pretty dark state. We all live in apartments together, and it was a lot of fun. And my roommates were great. And I should have felt comfortable enough talking with them about it, but I, for some reason, didn't. But I was staying at the rink for like 7-8 hours a day. Like, I'd be there like when the P team was practicing, if that says anything. Like, it was they were long days, and I think part of it was just like, because when I went home, I just feel so gray and like so sad, and like I'd be miserable. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to stay at the rink as long as possible so I can like ignore that. And it's obviously not the right approach to it. I was staying busy for the wrong reasons, but the scariest part was like I was playing good. Like, I was having I had a rough start to the season, but like I was starting to figure it out. And I'm like, well, if I'm playing good hockey, like, I don't need to take care of the other stuff. But that's just not how it goes. So I had finished out that year. Honestly, like, when I came back for the second half, mentally, I felt so much better. Like, I had talked to my sports psychologist, really broke down like the root of my problems. And since then, I've been the happiest I've ever been. So then this season, I ended up making the Minnesota Wilderness and the NA, started the season with them, got cup for the first games, and joined BGR probably mid-October. And I mean, obviously, what a magical run that was. I mean, capping my junior hockey career off with a championship was unreal, and it honestly, like, it hasn't really hit me yet. So
well, I want to get into that mental side of things here soon, but I want to hear Adam's story next, because this is where you kind of become similar. Is, yes, your junior career is over now, but you ended it your final season as a captain, and now this upcoming year for Adam, his final season, he's going to be a captain also. Adam, can you kind of take us through what led you to this moment in your career?
Yeah, so we'll start all the way back to youth. Biz and I both grew up in the Minnesota system, which is actually pretty different than the Mass system we've come to see. Like, we play community hockey here. So basically, I was in a whole organization with kids I lived like in the same exact like neighborhood in like within 5 minutes. And we all grew up together all the way up from age 5 to 13. So I played there. I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota. So it was just like the city kids. And then I went to St. Paul Academy, played 4 years of high school hockey there. Went to the state tournament my freshman year. It was awesome, played in front of like 12,000 fans. And then my senior year, I was named captain. I had a really great high school hockey experience. Thought I was kind of getting close to the NA my senior year, talked to a couple different teams. Thought I was very close to a tender offer. I was talking literally for 5 months with a team, and they kept like baiting me with it and then taking it away. And I was like getting really, really angry. And I'd been to camps before, like after my junior year. And I was kind of just waiting on that tender offer, trying to figure out where to go after high school. And around May, I think, my trainer told me like, hey, like, I don't think you're gonna get that tender offer, and I don't like the idea of you going to NA camps unprotected. So he had me sign with the U18 team in Sioux Falls that I had no clue anything about. They didn't have a coach at the time, but basically they get an automatic bid to nationals every year, which is a great exposure for 18U hockey.
Yep.
So I decided to sign with them. They had great facilities, everything. I mean, we use a lot of the USHL facilities down there too, which was awesome. And I had a really tough season that year. That was the worst season of my life. I lived with my coach, who I'd never met before. We lived in a townhouse, and my other roommate and I didn't like necessarily get along. And my coach and I really didn't click. He had a really different view on hockey than I did. And it's tough when you have to go home like every single night after practice when either like you get a nice screaming at or things like that. And I just kind of go to my room around like 8 o'clock every night and like try and avoid talking to him. So I was basically isolated for most of my time in Sioux Falls, and like me and my teammates didn't really hang out. There wasn't that escape like we have at BJR, which is really nice. Yeah, so I had a really poor experience, and things just kind of cycled in the wrong way. But I did work really hard. My coach did actually put me on a really good stick handling program. I did that for like an hour almost every single day all year. Got much better at hockey actually, and I ended up signing a tender with the Minnesota Magicians in the NA around the same time I signed with BJR. So I signed with BJR kind of as almost a safety thing because COVID hit, and I like figured I needed a team.
Yep.
There's something to play for next year. Yeah, so I worked all summer trying to make the Magicians, and I did make it out of training camp, or I did make it to training camp. I was there for about 5 weeks. It was like the longest little training camp I'd ever been a part of. And then I ended up getting caught once a lot of NA teams and USHL teams folded. They brought like 7 or 8 new guys in when that happened. So I saw the writing on the wall, and I knew there was a great spot at BJR that I could go to, and the team had a ton of success the year before. And they had guys like Biz that I'd heard of, were both Minnesota boys. And our team ended up having like, I think it was 7 guys from Minnesota this year. So it was a really comfortable transition for me too. And I kind of bounced around, like living on couches, living in different apartments throughout the year. But I had much better living situations, even though I was bouncing around. I had a great time playing there this year, and things really cleared up in my head this year. I'm really happy to go back there next year as a captain. So really excited to repeat too.
I like that. So you each have great stories that have kind of led you to this moment, and I find it interesting because this past weekend I was out in Denver, Colorado for the CCM showcase, which featured over 400 players that are looking for homes for this upcoming year. And all the parents, the most common questions they ask are about, post-grad hockey. And, it all sounds great. You don't have as many classes to take and this and that, but both of you went through experiences where mentally it wasn't as great as it may seem from the outside. And you would find yourselves, it sounds like, spending even more time at the rink because it was your safest spot to be. Can either of you can start with this first? Can you kind of talk more about why the rink was such a safe haven for you guys?
Busy that you got this one.
With my 2 years at BGR, like we had such tight knit groups that when I was at the rink, like I said earlier, like I was trying to avoid the things I was going through off the ice, but at the same time, like I literally just love being with the guys and getting better with them. And Rich has made such a good culture there that that's how it is for a lot of other guys too. Like we just want to be there as long as possible. And even like it's crazy because like we all live with each other, so it's like we see each other off the ice anyways, like, but we still want to stay at the rink and just either whether it's like working out after, pushing each other to get better, or just literally just sitting there and talking. Like there's definitely a comfortability factor when it comes to that. And I don't know. I just think you get stuck. Like that's how Zook and I kind of got into wanting to do this, was like we had like deep conversations after a workout or something. Like you get to know more about the guys on your team, like guys that have come from different places, and you get to hear their stories, and like you guys can talk about like the struggles that you both share and things like that. So
Yeah. And then Adam, let's kind of look at it from a different perspective, because we've obviously covered you're both from Minnesota. You both actually started in your home state this past year, and both got cut in your home state this past year, and then ended up north of Boston. Can you just talk about like, what does it feel like to honestly get cut?
The walk out of the rink is the hardest part.
Yeah.
Like I had no clue whether to say like bye to the boys, because I knew it's like I knew 10 to 12 guys on the team already. Like
Yeah.
I had grown up with a few of them. Like it was really tough. And then I kind of spent this. I actually have a pretty good story. It's pretty dramatic, but
Go ahead.
So I had an SAT that I was going to take that weekend in Duluth, about 2 hours north. I got cut on like a Wednesday, and I talked to my advisor. I'm like, hey, like I'd really like to try and stay in the NA or stay in like tier 2 hockey. But like this was around the time where everybody was kind of getting cut. So it, like everyone was like, there were probably hundreds of kids trying to find homes. So my advisor spent a couple days like looking around, making calls to guys he knew. Because I didn't, this is the like your second year junior, your first year, you really want to try and stay in tier 2 as long as you can.
Yeah.
But like I got a call around like Friday, and he's like, yeah, like I'm gonna have you go to BJR. And like I didn't know anything about it. Like again, like Biz said, Rich hadn't seen me play. Like I didn't know a single guy on the team, and I'd be going across the country. I also had a girlfriend at the time, and she was going to school around my house, so I could see her all the time. So I kind of had to break that off too, which was also difficult. So all this stuff was kind of spinning in my head, and like on my way to my SAT at like 7 a.m. after I got that call, like I had to pull my car over, and I like threw up on like the side of the road. There was like so much like going on in my head. I was just so overwhelmed. It was crazy. And I didn't know like how to deal with it really, but I took it. I drove myself out to BJR all alone. It was like a 22-hour car ride. It was nuts. And found a home. It was really awesome.
And you guys have such incredible experiences, and then you come out of this season and you create this new company, if you will, and because you want to be able to share your stories. And the most common thing I see on your website that stands out and on your social media, you guys use the word free hundreds of times. Why did that mean so much to you to offer a free service to anyone out there?
I can take this one, Busy. As you go through juniors, you see how much stuff costs. You see pre-draft camps that cost $500 to play 4 games.
Yeah.
And like your opportunity out of that is so low. Like out of like a 5-team null pre-draft camp.
Yeah.
Or like they're like different advisors. There's not all like bad advisors. There are good advisors. I have a great advisor myself. But that will really just scam you out of money. And we were talking about this. We're like, we don't want to be like a group of 19 and 20-year-olds trying to make a profit off like 14 through 20-year-olds or things like that. And we just thought having it free would be a much more inviting and open opportunity. Plus, it's not like we have degrees in anything, so it's not, we just have a wealth of experience. So we're not really going to try and make a profit off of it
doesn't take money for it. Sorry, I was just to say, like, it doesn't take money for us to be good people and do the right thing. Like, I think, we honestly just want to provide a resource that we wish we had when we were 2 years younger. We were just starting high school or just starting juniors. Like there's a hole that needs to be filled in the junior hockey, high school and junior hockey world. Like that's just what we want to provide. Like we don't need to gain anything off it financially. So
Yeah, and now you guys have the experience of having played through a pandemic season. So let's start with you first. To have your first year with the Rangers and not even having the chance to play in a playoff game, but knowing that the team had as good a chance as anyone to win the championship, and then coming back for your age out year with the uncertainty of kind of what laid ahead. How did you cope with all that?
Yeah, I mean, this year's been crazy for everybody, obviously, and I was so sad when everything got shut down last year, as was everyone else. But it was weird because like for me, like I wanted to make a tier 2 team, and I knew that, but I also loved like BJR, and I was like, I don't know if I wanna leave or what, and so it was hard like moving on from what happened the previous spring and the previous season. Just knowing that we wouldn't know what happened. Like there was always going to be an unknown there. So, I mean, I got over that as the summer went on, and then honestly, like I did not think our team this year was going to be even close to what we were the year before, which is crazy. As crazy as it sounds, like, throughout the summer, I'm like, oh, like it's gonna be so hard to redo what we did last season and everything like that. But I think within the first week of me coming back to BGR, I was like, yeah, I think we're a little bit better, honestly. So, no, I mean, this year has been so hard for everybody. And I think that's what like people don't give themselves enough credit for what we've had to go through this year. And, I mean, I think our greatest ability is the ability to adapt to situations. I think everyone had to do that this season with all the restrictions and, not having a locker room for half the season. And obviously you guys did a great job of, keeping us playing and finding places for us to play. And obviously everything that happened in the finals was tremendous. So, I mean, it's been a hard year, but honestly, I think it built a lot of character in people. So.
And Adam, speaking of adapting, to get to the month of February, to be that close to the finish line and to suffer an injury like you did you find yourself whenever at night thinking to yourself, thank God I'm an 0-1, not an age out?
Yeah, I actually thought that all the time. It was it was a really tough situation. I like shattered my hand pre-game warm-ups playing soccer and required surgery. So I was out for 2 months, and I missed the entire Frozen Finals and our championship run, which sucked. But I as an 0-1, I talked to Rich, and he's like, yeah, like this sucks a lot, but we'll get you back next year, and you'll be fired up even more. You'll be ready to go next year. And the process of recovery was tough because I'd also crashed my car like 3 days before, so I didn't have a car either.
Oh my God.
So I was basically stuck with a broken hand in my apartment, and I couldn't really like get out, which was tough on the mental. But again, I'd been through this before in Sioux Falls. I'd also suffered injury in Sioux Falls, and I knew ways to cope with that. And I filled my time up doing productive things and taking care of my mental health. Starting FHA was huge too. I spent a lot of time doing that. And then, just staying focused on the goal, being as helpful to my teammates as I could. I went to the rink every day, showed up to practice. I'd watch, I'd fill up waters, I'd get sticks. And in the finals, I'd dry gloves. I'd do all the scratch duties. I didn't take a moment off. So, I'm more than fired up for next season. I'm fully recovered. I'm ready to go.
Was there ever a thought in your mind that I'm injured, I know I can't come back this year, why don't I just go home? Or was it always, I want to stay with the team?
Yeah. So like 3 weeks in, there was a kid from Northern Cyclones NCDC hanging out with one of my teammates in our apartment. And we were just talking. He's like, well, if you're not going to play the rest of the season, like, why don't you just, go home?
Yeah.
And I was like, I never even thought to like do that.
Yeah.
I had like some of my best friends out there. And if I had gone home, I would have been all alone. And like it's huge for next year. Like I get to see the entire process of what winners and the championship room, locker room looks like,
Yep.
and like how to respond after bad periods. Like I'd be in the locker room at all times. So I don't really feel like I missed out on a whole lot other than obvious like individual purposes.
Yep.
We had a great player in Ethan Heideprum come to the team right after I got injured. He filled a huge role there. So
Yep.
yeah, I'm happy about that.
And you use the keyword adversity. So I want to shift it back to Connor because we get to the championship game, which I know for me personally, it felt like 2 years in the making. I'm sure the same could be said for you. And you guys fall behind in that game, not 1-0, but 2-0 heading into the third period. Of course, most people know the history. You scored the game tying goal. That moment in your career, where does it rank?
I mean, I'd probably put it like second behind the actual us winning the championship. It's tough. Like I black out in situations like that. Like I go back and like watch the video of it, and I'm like, I don't remember any of that happening because I was just so in the moment and like it kind of in that moment I was like, man, we actually just tied this up. Like we might win a championship here, and it's weird to say that because throughout the whole game, like even when we were down, like we were oddly calm, even in between periods. Like I think that was the best part of our team is like we never really got flustered, even if we were down. Like even the regular season, it happened so many times, and to be on that big stage and be down, I mean, literally in the locker room, like we're like, oh, like yeah, we're down 2-0, but like it's just gonna make this story even better when we come back and win it, and we're all ready to go. So it was, I mean. Yeah, I remember going back to the bench after I scored, and I'm like, wow, like we're actually like this is it now. Like we got a game. So it was it's hard to explain, honestly.
So I'm assuming you have, but have you seen the picture of when you let the shot go and the goaltender for the Avalanche's glove is literally inches away from stopping the puck? Have you seen that picture?
I have, that's a really cool shot. I mean, even the defenseman in front of him, I gotta give him credit because he dove face first to block that shot. I'm like, that's the playoffs right there. But I had just missed the same play, like I think 10 seconds earlier from Andy. And I'm like, if I get this again, like I got to do something with it. So,
and it's so funny that you bring that up because the number of people that have called since the season's end, and I've got to tell the story of the finals and whatnot. Like, I think you guys ran that play 5 times at least during the game. And then it finally connected right there at the end to help send the game to overtime. But then let's just talk about that final moment for both of you. When Johnny gets the breakaway and it feels like the whole building kind of stopped for a second. And then the goal goes in and the season, like, in that moment ends. Like, can you even describe the feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I had such a delayed reaction because it happened, and I'm like I saw Johnny go in. I honestly didn't really think much of it. I'm like, oh, like whatever. I think I had just gotten off, so I was pretty tired, and and then all of a sudden everyone just started jumping up and down. I'm like, I looked around, everyone's throwing their helmets and gloves off. I'm like, oh my gosh, like we just won. like if you look at any of the pictures of like us running in the pile, like I think I'm like the last guy because I had no clue what was going on. I was so confused, but no, I think being a returner who, we obviously didn't get the opportunity to finish what we started the year before. It was just relief. It's like I almost thought back to like my whole junior career, and I was like, this is exactly like how I would have wanted it to end. And I was like, I know for most guys, like ending juniors is pretty sad. And obviously with the special group we had, like that was the last time we were ever going to step on the ice together. So but I couldn't be sad about it. I'm like, we literally just did this. Like this is the best feeling ever. So it was, like I said, it's kind of hard to explain. Like it really took me like, I think a good month to like fully grasp like what happened.
Yeah. So before we wrap around back to FHA, for you, Adam, to experience that, obviously we talked about the injury, but then to be named captain for this upcoming year, how much pressure, honestly, do you feel for this upcoming season?
There is a decent amount of pressure, and I'm excited to see the kids we we bring next year. Because I know Rich does a really, really good job recruiting. So I have full trust in him. I know we'll have a great group. But yeah, I actually I look back and I imagine the things like Biz has done, Younger did, Morsey, Schaefer, all the different parts of leadership they had. Each captain had a really different role in our team, and I've been like going through this off season trying to decide like what type of role I'm best suited as a leader. I spent 2 years as a captain at St. Paul Academy, so I do have a lot of experience with that. So I am really excited, and I have one of my best buddies, Jack Cargus. He's coming back. He's got a captaincy too. We've been training together all summer, and we've just been talking nonstop about next season. He's going to be my roommate. Like we're more than ready to go.
And you know that the target on your back will be huge throughout the entire league. But then, we get to where we are now. We just crossed into June. And for many players, I always envision that when you guys get to the off season, it's a chance for you to, in a way, decompress from the year that was and then start training. But then you guys come out with FHA. What has been the outreach so far? And hopefully, of course, after this interview, it grows even more. But how have you felt the outreach has been so far for you guys?
It's been all right. I think we technically launched in January, and then we figured out that we had some things behind the scenes that we needed to figure out before we could even start talking to guys. And then the playoffs came around, so we're like, okay, like we're kind of devoting all our time to that. Like, why don't we just officially get going after the season once we get home? So we've been like fully going for about a month and a half, and honestly, like we've only talked to mainly guys that we've known previously or like that we've heard of. So it's a lot of Minnesota guys, local guys. But the thing that like is really important right now is like a lot of like I said, this season's been so hard for a lot of people, and it's easy to let this season ruin like what's to come with the rest of your junior career, high school career, whatever it is. So like right now, like we want to like talk to guys and unwind their season. I think people probably have a lot of things on their chest they need to get off, and things they need to let go from the previous season. Otherwise it's going to ruin their next one. And so we're right now we're walking guys through their previous season, kind of breaking down everything that's happened, everything that went wrong, like what's up next, like what are your goals, how are you going to do that, stuff like that. It's really important right now to transition in the summer. And obviously we want to get a lot more people, involved. We want to get a lot more of the East Coast guys, because we know what it's like out East, even though we're from Minnesota. So
and obviously you guys offer you the chance to talk through text, talk on the phone, video conferencing, all that. You have a blog going as well, and I read a few of your blog posts before I got on this interview, and I don't want to go through every story because I want people to go back and read the blog as well. But there was one story that Adam brought up in the 5 things he wished he knew as a high school senior, and you point out that you should not burn bridges. Can you just tell that story so we have it here on the podcast too, because it's a pretty awesome story.
Yeah. So my senior year, I kind of talked about how those NA teams were I was talking to them for way longer than I should have been, and whatever. So I'd also had like 2 very top NA3 teams reach out. One was North Iowa. They ended up winning the NA3 this year.
Yep.
And they wanted me to come skate with them for the rest of the season, go finish the year with them. And there's this huge, I even had it, like people don't want to go play like tier 3 hockey. Like they want to hold that tier 2 standard, or tier 1.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to I thought at that time I was too good. I shouldn't have ended up there. So these coaches were being so nice. We had like hour-long calls. They kept reaching out, checking in on how I was doing. And then there would be days on days where I just wouldn't respond. Like I didn't know how to talk to them. I didn't know how to respond to a text, how to say no, but at the same time be respectful and keep those relationships going. And 2 of those head coaches that I talked to as I go through the off season, who I had ended up like the final text was like they had 3 texts waiting for me that I hadn't responded to. And then I probably 2 months later, I see one coach is named like head coach of an NA team. An NA team that I was like talking to the whole year, as funny as that is.
Yeah.
And then the next year, one of the coaches was named like associate head coach of another NA team. And I'm like looking at them like, well, I can kind of scratch those 2 off my list. And that doesn't even like encapsulate everything. Like coaches talk, like coaches will ask another coach about what they think of a player.
Yeah.
Whether that be colleges, other junior teams. Yeah. So I made a mistake there. I don't know. I don't even know in what totality it cost me.
Yeah.
But it's something that we teach at FHA. We say, hey, like this coach is nice enough to really like your game, like to talk to you after he really liked how you played. Like take that compliment and build that relationship. Who cares if they're 2 or 3? Coaches move up all the time.
Yep. And as I said at the CCM showcase this past weekend, a lot of tier 3 players in our league, of course, end up at Division 2 and 3 schools, but you can get a strong academic experience at those schools as well. And I'm sure you're going to get that chance, Connor, this fall when you head to the SUNYAC. When you come back to the EHL and you're one of the top, we probably could say 5 forwards in the league point wise, and you start to get offers. How many different college coaches were you talking to? And then how did you finalize your decision to pick Buff State?
Yeah. So I like my first year with BJR, I had like a handful of offers to play that fall. It's so like not going with my age out year. And I think around Christmas time that first year, I decided like I want to age out, whether it's with BJR or with the tier 2 team, whatever. Yeah. And so like I'd had some traction talking to schools from that previous year. Obviously, when we had the showcases that year, that was huge. Like, I remember our first showcase was in Walpole, and I had heard of the showcases, didn't really know much of them, and I was like, I walked outside of our first game. I think we played the Rough Riders, and literally the hallway was just lined with college coaches, and they were all for our team. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, is this really how it is? Like, this is pretty cool. But no. So then this year, like I hadn't reached out to. I mean, I had some coaches that I'd contacted or stayed in touch with throughout the summer, but I didn't really start reaching out to like the East Coast schools until I was driving out to Boston when I got cut from the Wilderness. I think that's the most important thing too. I think players sometimes sit and wait for coaches to come talk to them, and sometimes you have to spark up that conversation and take matters in your own hands. So I did that. Like I reached out to a bunch of schools. It was kind of crazy. Like I was driving out with my dad, and like I mean, I don't mean to like brag, but like if like I felt like it was like every like 20 minutes, like I was getting a call from a different school, which it was awesome because I'm like, well, this is exactly what I want. Like I want to like I'm going to a team where I'm gonna have a big role. I'm gonna be able to play a lot, and like now I have these eyes on me. So, I think once I didn't really know what I wanted to do for a major, and I think that's kind of what played the biggest role in my decision. Was I think around Christmas time, I decided I want to go into engineering, and obviously not a lot of schools offer that. So I kind of narrowed my list down pretty good.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I got down about like 4 schools that like I generally really wanted to play hockey at, and I really wanted to go study at. And it was a tough decision in the end, but like it was funny. Like I was talking to Nathan Young, and he was in the same boat as I was, and we both had 2 schools that we really were interested in, and like it was like a coin flip between the 2. And we walked each other through like the criteria, like what we're looking for and like what this school provides. And we both like looked at each other like, we both have one school that checks all these boxes. Like, why aren't we just committing there? And so then we both committed like right then. And I was like, okay, well that's it. And I mean, once I committed, like I was just so like relaxed with the season. Like I didn't have to worry about like when I was going to commit or whether I was going to be able to find a school, I got it taken care of. And I mean, obviously a lot of it has to do with the EHL and like the way you guys set things up, but it was a good process and I definitely enjoyed it.
And Adam, hopefully your commitment will be coming right towards the start of next season for you too. So you guys have awesome stories. You've both been through so much, both on and off the ice. Some similarities and some differences, of course. I want to make sure though that the players that are out there right now know to get in contact with you, because I've brought up the CCM Showcase a few times, and you guys have mentioned, advisors and coaches and whatnot, and the resources that they are. But I think the biggest message coming out of this episode of the podcast is one of the best resources that players could have are players themselves, the kids that are in their exact same shoes. And that's the whole idea, I would imagine, behind FHA. So we're going to get this podcast out later today, and hopefully after the podcast, the number of players reaching out to you continues to grow.
Yeah. And the best ways to contact us are, we have a contact page on our website, or like direct message us anytime at our Instagram or Twitter accounts. It's at FHA Mentors.
And you guys have your phone numbers on there as well. So you guys responded to me right away about this. And again, thank you so much for coming on, and enjoy the rest of the off season. Connor, good luck this fall. Hopefully you can come back and catch a few EHL games. And Adam, I'll see you in September.
Yeah, I'll see you soon. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Neil.
Thanks for listening to the E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.